Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, New Year, Festivus for the rest of us, bye week, all of that stuff. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming to play in a football game. They've moved it to 425 because it does have some playoff aspirations on their side of the football. Been a rough couple of weeks for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Charlie Batch chronicles all things as a real Pittsburgher. And it is, of course, the holiday season. He's got his Best of the Batch Foundation stuff working. Happy holidays to you. Look a little, I love your little Christmas emoji here on your Twitter at CharlieBatch16, Charlie. How you been? I like your Santa outfit. You look better in red than you do in black and gold.
Oh, I appreciate it. And it's always exciting this time of year. So happy holidays to everybody. And, of course, with our foundation, we get excited this time of year because we collected close to 8,000 unwrapped toys. We adopted over 150 families this year. So all day tomorrow on Christmas Eve, we will actually be literally to the point where we'll be delivering all day tomorrow. So it's an exciting time.
Batch of toys, man. I tell you what, you got something going on up there, and we're feeling the seasonal thing around here. You know what this is like. You've been around the game a long time, played the game at a high level. When you're talking about 13-2 and giving players off the last week of the year against your division rival, been a pretty good year around here in Baltimore. I know the last time you and I got together and talked, Lamar Jackson was still trying to figure it out. It took you a long time to figure it out at that position. This has been an amazing 11 weeks, hasn't it?
It really has, and I'm excited for Lamar Jackson being the season that he had. I mean, it's just something, and of course, you always want to prove your doubters wrong, especially as you're starting your career. So it's just awesome to watch. Unfortunately, I had to watch him do it against, as a member of the Ravens against our Steelers. So it's just something that, it's always good to see, especially whenever, I don't care who it is, but, when you're talking about the quarterback position, man, it's always good to see.
Well, to see a kid play it at this level in this way, and we talk so much about the drafting and the Harbaugh's, ability to sort of morph and chameleon the offense and how Greg Roman's running the offense. But you know this better than anybody. They have built this around him. The parts around him are very intentional, whether it's Willie Snead and blocking downfield or Marquise Brown to take the top off, and certainly all these big tight ends, and what they're asking the offensive linemen to do. Even in the case of Marshall Yanda, been in the league 13, 14 seasons, doing it differently because this team just wants to run the ball down your throat, and they're built to do that.
And I let you know that, I mean, that takes really good coaching and patience to do so when you're talking about building the system around the quarterback. And it's, and it's easy. You have to give a lot of credit to John Harbaugh, especially last year where they're playing that playoff game. Things weren't going well for Lamar Jackson, but he's getting that experience. And for him to not live in the moment at that point, to say it's not about the individual game. I could have easily inserted Joe Flacco. It's about the best person that can give me the opportunity to win. And he felt like it was Lamar Jackson. Even as bad as the game he had in that playoff game, but, man, that set the tone for this year. And now, he really just took it and ran off with it. And they don't expect anything less. You don't anticipate any of those problems this year in the playoffs because he has some of that playoff experience now.
Well, confidence is not going to be an issue around here. I mean, it's sky high. The whole city's purple, as I'm sure you can imagine. And this game this week, sitting Lamar, it's a great chance for RG3. It'll be a great chance for a lot of guys as the Ravens sort of unload the bench a little bit. Where are the Steelers in all of this? And certainly needing to win and get help. Not the best look against the Jets on Sunday, Charlie.
No, it's not. And I've been in those situations where Baltimore has been in, and I've been that Week 17 starter whenever the Steelers were sitting Ben Roethlisberger. But at the same time, as a player, it gives you that experience because you haven't had much during the regular season. Give you a chance to knock the rust off. And then for whatever reason, you have to get into that playoff game. It's not the first experience. So, man, I'm excited for RG3 in that moment. But now the question is the Steelers put themselves in this situation. All they had to do was win two of these games prior to, but yet they lost those games against Buffalo and the Jets to put them now in a whirlwind. And hopefully they don't get into a three-way tie because now, it just starts pulling your hair out as it relates to all these playoff scenarios. But if I'm John Harbaugh, I'm thinking to myself right now, they probably had that conversation a couple weeks ago, and they're saying to themselves, do we do the Steelers a favor in Week 17 by sitting all of our starters and allowing the Steelers to make the playoffs at some point, knowing that you may see them in a couple weeks? I just don't see John Harbaugh doing the Steelers a favor at this point. What better way to kind of pour some dirt on somebody and let them think about it in the offseason by beating him and knocking him out the playoffs, especially a division foe.
Well, we saw Mark Ingram come up lame in Cleveland on Sunday. That's our worst nightmare, right? Like that at this point at 13-3 or 14-2, it doesn't make any difference. You get 2 weeks off. I mean, I remember years ago when we would debate this all the time about Peyton Manning or Tom Brady and whether Tony Dungy should rest starters and all of that stuff. It seems to me in the modern era, the more rest we get Earl Thomas, Marshall Yanda, Ronnie Stanley, Mark Andrews, guys that have been banged up a little bit, probably the better. I mean, 3 weeks off for Mark Ingram right now. I want a fully functional version of Mark Ingram, whether it's the Steelers or whether it's Buffalo, whoever it is a couple of weeks from now. I do want to give my plus 30 guys a little extra time.
No, and I agree with you on that. I mean, if there's a legit injury, you sit those guys. There's no questions about it. But like you mentioned, it's a 3-week layoff, but also understanding that the number 2 seed in this playoff, they have to play for something. So New England will actually be playing their starters in a game. So now that only gives them 2 weeks of rest versus 3 weeks of rest of non-game time. So that's just an interesting conversation. And when you're sitting here, those conversations happen internally. You have to do what's best for your football team. So I understand sitting Lamar Jackson, but a lot of the other guys, if it's not a legit injury, I tell those guys, hey, I need you to get out there and play because I'm going to give you 2 weeks rest.
Charlie Batch joining us here. He is Charlie Batch 16. You cannot find him this week. I was just blessed to do it. He's out delivering toys in a Santa outfit, doing all that stuff in Pittsburgh. And, you'll be out amongst the fan base this week. And obviously, we've had an otherworldly thing happen here in Baltimore this year. I mean, just all the way around. It's a pinch me time. I'm flying to Miami next week, Charlie, to put hotels together for a Super Bowl trip. I mean, it's incredible. But in Pittsburgh, it's been a different kind of year. Ben not being able to work out. The defense trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick, just a wide, a wide body of work. And I think all of it does say Mike Tomlin's done a pretty good job there in Pittsburgh this year to have them in a position to still make the playoffs.
He does, and he's done a nice job of keeping everybody together, building the defense, and understanding that, hey, we're not going to put a lot of points up offensively, so there's going to be some challenges that way. And it went for him a couple times, and then, of course, over the last couple of weeks, it hasn't. But, man, I'm envious of you right now because you have a chance to go look at hotels because there's a chance that you might be in the Super Bowl. Think about over the last couple of years, we've been talking on Media Row, and you get to this point, and now all of a sudden, you might be actually talking about a game that's relevant to you. So kudos to you. I'm excited about that, but it's just one of those things where when the season changes, playoff time, this is where you get excited about it, and teams need to elevate it, and unfortunately, Baltimore's elevating, and the Steelers are descending.
Well, I joked with Ed Bouchette that maybe we'd see you start here, that they'd have a chance, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Duck or Mason or anybody there. And I also see Colin Kaepernick blackballed and thrown out of the game, and I'm thinking to myself, could the Steelers, not necessarily you or Tommy Maddox or anybody else, but could they have found the better scenario than Duck at this point? Could they have found the better quarterback?
Well, Duck got hot at the right time, and that Duck mania around Pittsburgh took off in a amount of his own because he won some games, and they kind of overlooked some of those challenges that they were having on the offensive side. 1 touchdown in the last 8 games. I mean, that's crazy around here to think that they'd only put up 1 offensive touchdown a game. So it's frustrating as you watch it, but I think right now the biggest question up here, I don't know if Mason Rudolph's going to play. He left the game with a shoulder injury to his left shoulder. I've always been around. If a player cannot come back into the game and finish that game, chances of him playing the following week are minimized. And I don't anticipate seeing Mason Rudolph. Now the next question is, okay, if you bench Duck, but you had to use him because that's the only option that you have, man, there's a guy on the roster named Paxton Lynch that you may want to get a chance to see if maybe he's your quarterback, maybe backup quarterback of the future for next year's roster. So if I'm Paxton Lynch, I'm kind of anxious and getting in those coaches' ear to say, hey, don't forget me, coach. Give me a chance and see if he can continue on with his career.
Charlie, we call it the NFL not for long and all that stuff. it's really incredible 1 year, right? Like, just go back 1 year to this week. We're talking about Eric Weddle, Terrell Suggs, C.J. Mosley, Joe Flacco, Zadarius Smith. On the other side, we're talking about Antonio Brown. We're talking about Le'Veon Bell. We're talking about Ben Roth. I mean, just it's really incredible, the cast of characters and how quickly it changes when there's a Devin Bush and a Minkah Fitzpatrick and just different football players. And in the case of the Ravens, I mean, Josh Bynes made that big play in Pittsburgh. You know, the Ravens have 5 or 6 guys on the defense. L.J. Ford, Domata Pecco now is a member of the Ravens and out there, you know, getting 30, 40 snaps a week. They're a different football team than they even were 8 weeks ago. It's really incredible how quickly these things can change, where after all of those years of Ray and Jerome and years go on, we're in a different era of Steelers football. I mean, Lamar hadn't seen the Steelers all that much, and he's not going to see them this week.
Right, and you used to have the same cast of characters like you just mentioned, but unfortunately that hasn't happened, but it also allows these younger guys to make a name for themselves in this particular rivalry. You mentioned a guy by the name of L.J. Ford. Think about it, last year he was on this Steelers roster. He was probably the second best special teams player on this roster behind Tyler Matakevich, who happens to still continue to be that way on the Steelers roster. But L.J.'s a great guy, ended up leaving free agency for Philadelphia. Things didn't work out for whatever reason, but yet he lands on that Ravens roster and has been making impact, and that rewarded him in a contract extension. So when you see those cast of characters, they know how important this rivalry is. So I'm sure LJ can go in that locker room and let them know what's going on in the Steelers defense, but he's making a mark there because he's now trying to now do something that he wasn't able to do as a member of the Steelers, and hopefully that's hoist that Lombardi trophy. So I'm always rooting for guys that you know are really good guys.
I know you didn't like defenses when you played the game, but certainly Pittsburgh's come a long way defensively and putting this thing back together, where certainly in the aftermath of the Shazier tragedy, the defense was a liability. If the Steelers win this football game on Sunday, it's because their defense will have beaten RG3 up pretty good. That is their best chance to win this football game.
Yeah, it is. And I think, there's a couple different scenarios. It's going to say, man, the defense played really well, the Steelers, but also on the flip side in Pittsburgh, they could say, well, would they have beaten Baltimore with Lamar Jackson at quarterback? So either way, you have to play the guys and beat the guys who are on that field. But not much is expected, even if the Steelers do get in the playoffs, and in this case, limp into the playoffs. Not much is expected, and everybody around Steelers Nation, at least a large majority of people in Steelers Nation, are saying this is a one-and-done playoff team.
Charlie, you expect the Ravens to win the Super Bowl? You expect to at least see him in Miami in 3-4 weeks?
I do expect to see him. I picked early on. I said it was going to be the Ravens in Seattle in the Super Bowl. I'm still keeping that that prediction together. But Seattle's a little banged up, so I don't know if they're going to be able to maybe sign Marshawn Lynch. I don't know what that looks like on their side. But hey, you never know. But either way, Baltimore's sitting in a really good situation. That's why I was critical for them to beat the 49ers and New England. Now, this is what you want. You want home field advantage. You want the shortest path to the playoffs, and Baltimore has that, and all they need to do is win 2 to get to that Super Bowl, and then we can redirect the conversation.
When you watch Lamar running around like this, do you, as a quarterback who did this for a long time, do you see it as unsustainable? What he's doing, we hear that a lot, and we hear, well, he has to learn how to throw the football. He's done that. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I don't think you want him to be bottled up in the pocket or to be that kind of a player, but there is a level of danger that we all live with here in regard to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and I think this is the only thing that I would like to see different. I mean, he can continue to play his game, but just those unnecessary hits. When you're talking about fighting for 1 extra yard when you already have the first down, if you can minimize 3 to 4 hits a game and do that over a course of a season, now you're talking about hundreds of hits that he doesn't have to take. And those hits continue to add up each and every year. So if he expects to have a 10-year career, if not longer, he's going to have to use some of those things. And if I'm him, and I'm sure that conversation already started, him and RG3 having that conversation, because RG3 was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson entered into the league. Unfortunately, he left with a knee injury, and that was something that took a toll on his career. Now, if he can now share that knowledge and say, here's some of the things that I learned, Lamar Jackson will do very well throughout his career.
RG3 is going to be shaking and baking on Sunday. They've moved the game to 425. Charlie, you're going to be worn out by the time of games. I mean, this is your busiest week of the year here. Tell everybody what you do. I mean, you're such a special guy in regard to the loss of your sister many, many years ago and all the things that you've done in Pittsburgh, whether it's crime, poverty, kids, Christmas, gifts, toys. You're always out doing something. This is a big week for you.
Yeah, it is. With our Best of the Batch Foundation, as we close the end of the year, this is, we've been around now for 20 years. But over the last 13 years, we have our holiday drive, and we adopt families. So we collect unwrapped toys. This year it was close to 8,000 toys. So we go from collection, then we have a big wrapping party as we need help wrapping them. So we had over.
Is there rap music there? I mean, it's like Run DMC rapping?
No, this is rapping with a W. So we actually have all of our Christmas music playing, all of our, I call them professional rappers because they are like 3-tape rappers. They all should be in the mall.
I'm hearing like Christmas in Hollis playing and everybody rapping gifts is what I want to hear.
So we do. So it's always exciting. So over 250 volunteers help wrap them. We actually, as we have our gift bags, and between not only addition to the presents, they actually get actual meals. So they'll actually get turkey, ham, all the fixings, fruits and vegetables, along with some household items to make sure that they're able to all sit down and have holiday dinner together. So it's just important for us this time of year. So all of our partners, everybody who helped make this happen, we wouldn't be able to make this happen without you all. So we truly appreciate it. And if there's anybody else that's listening, want to do something like this, we have no problem with being able to share our knowledge and what we've learned over the years. They can actually go to batchfoundation.org.
Perfect. Charlie, Merry Christmas to you. I'll say the same thing to Tomlin. I mean, you can do us no harm this week. no real
Merry
harm.
Christmas. Merry Christmas to you and everybody else out there.
The good news is I don't have to fire up the buses to come up to Pittsburgh or New England or anywhere else. We're worried about Miami. I'm focused on the future. It's always great to have you on. Merry Christmas. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We'd be worried if Charlie was under center coming in here on Sunday. We'd have something to be nervous about. You can find him at charliebatch.com as well as the Batch Foundation and as they do their toy thing. And we get ready for post-holiday football on Sunday. Steelers in town. Bye. We're going to be doing some shows. I've got a trip to Miami if the Ravens can win 2 football games. Send me an email if you're interested in joining us for Festivus 3. Nasty at WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and probably eating leftover gingerbread, cookies, and pumpkin pie. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody out there. We never stop talking Lamar Jackson and winning another Super Bowl.